addendum to Chapter 2. I just wanted to go back and talk before we get into the next section, which gets a little problematic. In this phase in Davis, I am inundated, collecting, avaricious to find. I am gathering all of the data. Remember, I'm going to bars and drinking shots with people who are on the cutting edge of cell biology research, hormone research. So I'm learning a lot about hormones from a different perspective. Nutrition, the differences in nutrition in animals and plants in different soils, different growing regimes. I am inundated with stuff, and I have hundreds of research papers just kind of floating around. I also have hundreds of books by the end of this phase. I've done everything, read everything from raw foodism, 1960s raw foodism, to modern raw foodism, 1950s dietary theory, macrobiotics, anti-cancer, veganism, vegetarianism, pescatarianism. I've even experienced some references to full carnivore diets at this point, raw carnivore diets, raw organ meat diets. There's this guy crazy who just basically lives off of raw liver and heart, mostly heart, a little bit of liver, like crazy stuff, right? Fruitarianism. I've actually run into just about everything, and I've got books on most of the good stuff. I'm associated with a co-op, which has lots of alternative medicine and alternative nutrition resources. There's just everything at this point is all over. I've got hundreds of books, hundreds of papers, and I'm just inundated. I'm immersed in this area. So it's not like I'm just winging it. But the big effects, personally, are in those areas where I talked about sweat before you eat, keep your metabolic rate up, do your intervals, eat nothing that's processed, nothing in a package, stuff like that. But I do want to point out that I gathered an insane amount of data during this period of time, this several years back in Davis, and it has been worth a lot. It has kind of percolated and set in my system. This is one of the reasons I have problems with references, is that is 800 or 1,000 things to reconstruct and try to reference. And I don't even know if some of those papers exist anymore. Some of the stuff I got was pre-publication and may not have ever gotten published. There's a lot of politics involved in that. So just a comment, something I wanted to say. It was a fantastic period of time, but I didn't present in the chapter how much data I was incorporating into my life. And I acted on a lot of it. I did experiments constantly. Over this course of time, these several years, there were a lot of things that happened, periods of time, various things. And it wasn't just about weight. It was mostly about endurance and strength and flexibility. So there was a lot of stuff going on there with how long I could do fighting in the martial art I was doing. How long can you stay on your feet and keep throwing punches, stuff like that. Bicycling for extreme distances, relatively speaking, doing century rides and stuff. At one point in time, I was commuting a couple of towns over. So that was, a 20-mile each way commute, stuff like that, bicycle commuting. So there was a lot going on there, but the big key, the big huge takeaway moment in terms of diet there was going into that moderately low carb, steady activity state. Okay, and that just it made everything work. One of the things at that point in time is that calories in, calories out, CICO, CICO, was first introduced as a mathematical formula in my experience. somewhere in that time frame, people started actually saying that if you don't believe in Seco, you are denying Newton's laws. So you are going against the laws of nature if you don't follow the mathematical formula of calories in, calories out. And, it was really funny because for everyone in the world, nutrition and health world, where I was at the time, it was one of those things you had to get through. You had to understand that it doesn't work first before you could start looking at actually educating yourself. The first thing you have to do is have that failure rebound diet thing where calorie counting makes all the difference, and then you realize that it's just total bullshit. So that was amusing, but it was a very important element of the time. And that's it. We'll move on to chapter 3 soon.